Hey guys, Marsingen here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and we are continuing with the SBR guides for the new stages that are coming to JP. If you happen to be watching this video way in the future when they come out on Global, I've probably done an updated version because the units will have changed. But yeah, new stage coming to JP, the Earthlings stage. So this one's going to be interesting. Obviously the main leader is the LR Krillin, but there's a lot of other options, especially depending on how well your summons went on the Videl Dokkan Fest banner. But let's jump in and talk about it. So Krillin is the Earthlings leader, 4 key and 150 to stats. Obviously very solid leader skill. He does have an AoE super on his 12 key that has a medium chance to stun all the enemies. So based on RNG, this guy can be a clutch like Super Battle Road god, because he could literally stun every single enemy, even if he only stuns, like if you're in a 5 enemy fight, even if he only stuns like 3 of them, that's going to be super useful by moving forward. So he's incredibly good, regardless of how you end up building the team. Like, I feel like he should be on there as long as he fits under the leader skill. He is a very strong unit, and of course if you need to finish off an enemy or you just want to raise his defense because he's taking a bunch of attacks, his 18 key super is a single target attack, does mega colossal damage. He gets 3 key and defense 30,000. He gets 20,000 attack when performing a super, and then he gets additional attack if it's an ultra super. He gets an additional 3 key when there's only 1 enemy, and then he gets attack 10,000 at the start of the turn per existing enemy when facing 2 or more. So obviously if there is a 5 enemy fight, he's going to be getting a bunch of extra attack, make that AoE super much more powerful. And then he launches an additional super attack when facing 6 or more enemies. I feel like the only place that ever activates is in the World Tournament, because I don't think there's a single Super Battle Road stage that has more than 5. So you're not going to see that, but obviously I think one of his better builds is to make sure that he does have a decent amount of additional in hidden potential system anyway. So his best turn pretty much is going to be right at the start of the event. If you can double AoE super, get a bunch of stuns, then obviously he's going to be very, very effective. But of course, up next we have the Videl. So very controversial unit, I guess. Like, a lot of people, maybe because they just don't like Videl or whatever, don't want to accept that she's the best TUR in the game. Obviously the discussion has now come up because of the reveal of the new Gohan. Need to see him in action a bit more to really decide who is better. But I know from his initial reaction, True thinks that Videl is still the best. But what you can do with Videl, so she's on the Earthlings team. She's super, super good. Obviously she raises attack and defense on super attack. The defense is only for 1 turn, but still very good. She has a unit super attack. Now on this team, there is a way you can get this to activate, because you are able to bring specific Great Saiyaman units, but you might not be able to get this active. All it really does is give her extra attack, and then it greatly lowers defense, which isn't a huge bonus. But she has a very solid attack and defense. She has a 50% chance to dodge if you put her in slot 1. Then when she attacks, she gets an attack buff. She gets attacks effective against all types if she actually dodges an attack. If she doesn't dodge the attack, she gets extra attack. So she's just very, very good. She also launches an additional super as the first or second attacker in the turn. So guaranteed additional super, which means a guaranteed second raise of your defense. And then she has an extra attack buff again, and a high chance of dodging if you put her in the 3rd slot. But I think she's probably one of the most powerful units on this team, so putting her in the 3rd slot is probably not the best idea. But what you can do is you can run her as a leader. So Defenders of Justice or Peppy Gals, 4 key and 170 across the board. Not only is that a higher leader skill than the Krillin, but there are a lot of Peppy Gals units on this team, some of which we are going to talk about, and then Defenders of Justice units like the Saiyaman, like Gohan and Videl, who will obviously activate her unit super requirement. So technically, if you have her, she's potentially the better leader to just run a double Videl team, but obviously you lose access to a bunch of other units. You can't run Krillin on that team. But I do think that is a very solid option. You could run a lot of the units that were very effective in the Peppy Gals no items run, like Launch, Mai, all that kind of stuff. And that team will be very, very strong. So But anyway, continuing with the actual Earthlings cards, we have the physical Tien. He's a 120 lead for Earthlings. Crazy enough, with all the summons that I've done, this guy came out in the Worldwide Celebration last year, and I still don't have a single copy of him. But he does supreme damage to the enemy and greatly lowers attack and defense. So greatly lowering attack is massively useful in Super Battle Road. Very, very good. He also gives himself free key and 150 attack and defense. So he's a very solid unit in general. He gets an additional 70% when performing a super. So his super can hit pretty hard. Majin Buu Saga category allies attack 30% and defense 50%, and he has a high chance to stun as well. The stun is from his passive, so it's only for the one turn if it goes off, but that can still be very useful, obviously. Even if you're just using him as like a third slot floating unit, he can stun the unit that he's attacking, that could be attacking him. And even if he doesn't, he's greatly lowering their attack, so very useful. And of course, if you do bring Videl on the Earthlings team build, because you can't run this guy on Videl's team, unfortunately, but Videl is a Majin Buu Saga unit, so she's going to be getting the buffs from him if you run her on the team as well. And even if you don't have any Majin Buu Saga allies, I think he's strong enough, especially with the greatly lowering attack and the chance to stun, that he's worth bringing along anyway. So then we have the Roshi and Tien from the Anniversary. They're also an Earthlings leader, but only 77%. So, I mean, with the Prime Battle Krillin being a free-to-play unit, I don't see any reason why you'd ever be running these guys as the lead, unless, I guess, you just didn't bother doing the Krillin Prime Battle. They do supreme damage. They lower attack and defense and seal, which is obviously very useful. The combination of sealing and lowering attack is great, because you can lower an attack on an enemy a bunch of times on Super Battle Road, but then they still super attack you, and it still does quite a lot of damage. So the combination of lowering attack and sealing is incredibly useful. They get 70% attack and defense, then they get an extra 20% with each attack received. So their defense is definitely not going to be great at the start, so you want to be careful where you're putting them in terms of attacks. Obviously, you want to target whoever's going to be attacking them, realistically, with their attack, so they can seal, lower the attack, get hit a couple of times, and buff up their stats, because those first couple of hits, they will take a fair bit of damage. And then, of course, they do give Reps of Universe 7 allies 3 key and attack and defense 40%. Again, this team not necessarily going to have many, if any, other Reps of Universe 7 units, but they give themselves the buff, and I think the utility they provide with the lowering attack and the sealing is probably useful enough that they are a worthwhile option, especially considering they are free to play. So they're going to be a good option for a lot of people. So then we have the LR Oob. He's kind of underrated, but he's a solid unit, especially when it comes to Super Battle Road. He lowers attack on both of his super attacks. He gets a random amount of extra key, depending on the HP you have remaining. He gets more attack and defense as well. And then, of course, one of the reasons why he's so useful for SBR is if you start the turn on 40% HP or less, you fuse with Mr. Buu to become Marjoob, which gives a 40% heal, which is obviously very, very useful in Super Battle Road to get free heals. He then greatly lowers attack on his 18 key super, which is really good, and his stats are pretty solid. He also creates rainbow orbs, gets extra key with rainbow orbs, so it makes it a bit easier for him to get that 18 key super. Even I remember from using him on Gohan's team in Super Tech Extreme Super Battle Road that his defense isn't the greatest, but obviously that was Extreme Super Battle Road. So again, he's another one of these units with the attack lowering. If you can target whoever's going to be attacking him and get the 18 key super and greatly lower their attack, then obviously he is still going to defend very, very well. Some of the links on this team are a bit wonky, like this guy in particular doesn't really share a lot of links with many other units on the team. Cold Judgment and Solid Support will be around a little bit. Cold Judgment obviously is a very good unit, very good link as well, because it provides a bunch of extra defense. But yeah, he's another very solid free-to-play option. Like if you take out the Videl, this team can be made almost completely free-to-play and still be very powerful. So next up we have the Roshi, of course another free-to-play unit. In fact, I think there's a lot of Turtle School options on this category that are Earthlings as well. So I think it's actually very possible to make a full Turtle School team. You might need to use the TUR of the Roshi, but he's kind of decent as well. So I think it can be done with a full Turtle School Earthlings team. I'm pretty sure it can. So he massively raises attack for one turn, does colossal damage, and has a great chance to stun on his 12 key super, and then his 18 key super obviously does a huge amount of damage, Mega Colossal and guaranteed seals. So you can kind of decide how you want to play. You can go for the big damage and get the seal, or you can go for the 12 key super on purpose and try and get the stun, especially if there's going to be a ton of enemies, because remember, at this point of recording, we don't know what the stages look like, so we don't know who the enemies are and how many there's going to be, so it will depend which of those super attacks you want to go for. He has very solid defense. He also has a built-in medium chance to dodge. He's then a Turtle School support unit, so there's a bunch of units, even if you're not running a full Turtle School team, there's a bunch of units on the team that are going to benefit from that as well. And then, of course, he does have the revival skill, as long as you have 2 or more Turtle School category allies on the team. If you're able to get that up, then of course he revives with 60% HP if you get KO'd. HP has to be 50% or less upon entering that turn, but going to be very, very good. And then he also has an active skill, the greatest, most powerful Kamehameha, massively raises attack temporarily and does ultimate damage, and all allies key +7 can be activated after he receives 7 or more attacks, which again, in Super Battle Road, we don't know the enemies, but if there's going to be a fight where there's like 5 enemies, you could put him in slot 1, pop a defensive item, and he's potentially going to get hit like 5, maybe even 5 or 6 times in that first turn. So you could end up using his active skill on turn 5 as like a big finishing blow to take out somebody. And then of course, giving all allies 7 key, it means if you are bringing any of the LRs like Oob or any of the other ones that we all mention, they're going to get a ton of extra key. That includes him as well, so of course he's pretty much going to guarantee 24 key super on the turn where you use your active skill, so he's very, very good. Then we have the LR Hercule. I was going to say Hercule Boo, because I always get thrown off by the card art, but he can be pretty decent. He does have a medium chance to stun on his 12 key super, and then his 18 key super he does Mega Colossal and raises his attack and defense by 50% for 3 turns, so it does have at least 1 stack capability. So if you're getting his 18 key super, his defense is okay. The problem with him is the fact that his passive is very RNG related. He has a great chance of key +7 and attack 77%, so obviously if you don't get that, he's not going to be hitting particularly hard. He gets 3 key and 77% for 3 turns from the start of the turn. High chance of evading enemies' attacks for 3 turns after receiving an attack, and he reduces the attacked enemy's attack by 22%. So he does have quite a bit of utility. He can be pretty good on the team. Again, he's another free-to-play option, but I feel like if you are going to use him, he's probably best in the 3rd slot, maybe as like going for the 12 key super and trying to get stuns, or of course if his passive does go off and he gets that extra attack, you'll notice because you'll start the turn with a whole bunch of extra key. You can go for that 18 key super to do some big damage, and he does at least get a nice defense raise off of that. So he can be very useful on the team. Then we have the AGL Mai. The Int one is perfectly fine as well. The only reason I mentioned the AGL one over the Int one is because she has a higher chance to stun. She also provides all allies with key 3, whereas the Int one is a time traveler support unit, which I don't think anyone else on the team is. She does provide a buff to AGL allies as well, but I don't think we've really talked about any of them. And she gives Peppy Gal's allies a chance to crit. So if you are going down the Videl, like Peppy Gal's slash Justice like team, she will be giving the Peppy Gal's units an extra chance to crit, including Videl herself. So Videl getting all those extra attack buffs and extra supers, giving her an extra chance to crit is obviously very powerful. Then we have the Krillin. He's going to be releasing on Global with the Goten and Trunks banner, but he's been on the general pool for quite a while on JP. He's very good on this team because he is a super class ally support unit, 2 key and 30% attack and defense. He is obviously a Turtle School unit as well, if you're running the Roshi or any combination of that sort of team. He probably won't get his extra buff. Actually, yeah, no, you can't get it, I don't think, because you have to have a Trunks or Goten on the same turn, which you obviously can't run on this team. But if you are fighting a movie boss's enemy, because again, we don't know what they're going to be, but he does get damage reduction and then give super class allies a chance to crit. So he definitely can be a very useful unit. There's a lot of Krillins on this team. This guy definitely is very useful as a support. There's the Int one, who's quite good. He raises defense on super and has a 50% chance to stun. So obviously that is very useful. His passive, it's not going to be easy to get a big boost on his passive because there's not a lot of Android Cell Saga units on this team. He gets extra ki as the first attacker in the turn, but I don't think his defense is good enough for him to be in that spot. He gets 2 extra ki as the second attacker, but again, I think he's probably best as like a 3rd slot unit who's there just to try and get some stuns. But if there are android enemies, he does get a guaranteed additional super attack, so that gives you 2 chances to stun. So if there are android enemies on this stage, it might be good to use him over the tech one, but I think overall the tech one is probably better. Then we have the Int Hercule, so you can't use him and the LR, but he's very good. He has a built-in chance to dodge, he has a chance to stun on his super attack, he also reduces damage based on the HP you have, so if you've got low HP, his damage reduction is really high, so even if he doesn't dodge, he will tank really well, so he's a very good option as well. And then we have the Launch. So Launch is an Earthling, obviously. You couldn't use her on the team otherwise. But if you're using the Videl leads, she's going to get the full Peppy Gals leader skill. Anyone who's watched the no items run for Peppy Gals, she is ridiculously good. So obviously she transforms straight away. She gets a whole bunch of extra attacks. She has built-in chance to crit. Each of the super attacks lowers attack. So if you get lucky with the RNG, she can super attack like 4 times in one turn. She seals as long as there's another Peppy Gal ally in the same turn. So even if you're not running the Peppy Gal's build, but say you are running Videl or like Mai on the category, you can run them together, and that gives her an even bigger buff, because getting the seal is incredibly useful. And yeah, she has the 50% chance to crit is built into her passive for 6 turns, which realistically the fight's not going to go on much longer than that. So she is an absolute powerhouse, multiple attack lowerings, sealing, very, very good on this team, and obviously even more effective if you're using the Videl leads. So that is the Earthlings team. The free-to-play Oob is pretty good. He does have the Earthlings sub-leader skill, but again, like Prime Battle Krillin is free and is probably better. He can stun on super attack, which is nice. He takes a while to build up though, which is why he's probably not ideal for Super Battle Road. I guess if there's a world tournament or like a Goku enemy, then he can be pretty good because he guards, but again, that's very specific on the enemies that are going to be on the stage. Is there anyone else we should have really talked about? I mean, like Krillin and Tien and Chaozu, where are they? There. And Yamcha and Poir, not particularly great, pretty outdated at this point, unfortunately. The AGL Krillin is decent, but only really good when there's an 18 on the turn. The free-to-play Hercule and Buu are actually very good as well. They lower attack. They give Majin Buu Saga allies a buff as well, so if you are running Videl, they can be very good. Tech Tien is still good, although he only supports Tech, so the physical one is definitely better. The old school Bulma is fairly decent as a defensive unit, and is obviously a Peppy Gals unit as well. Roshi, not great, but has the seals. If you're running the Peppy Gals build and you don't have the STR Videl, and then I guess actually you can't really run the team because there isn't a proper leader, so I guess you're never going to be able to use this Videl. I was going to say she's not that great anyway. I believe that's the TUR Roshi, like he's okay. There's this Jackie Chun from the Dragon Ball Saga banner, but not many people are going to have him. If you're running the Turtle School units like the LR, the Tech Krillin, because he's on Kamehameha as well, he's a nice support unit for them, but he's not that great. So I think we mentioned pretty much everyone. As always with these guides, if you think there's anyone in particular that I missed or we should have talked about in more detail, let us know down below, and let us know what your team build is going to be for this event. I definitely think the Videl team is a good way to go if you can build that team. So let us know in the comments down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.